Hello, everybody. Today I am going to present a very general discussion on the global migration and displacement crisis. I'm specifically going to focus on a couple of grassroots groups that are doing incredible work to try to address this crisis at a local level. To give that general overview, it's known that millions of people around the world are being forcibly displaced from their homes due to a complex web of factors. This can range from internal conflict, war, economic hardship, environmental degradation, political instability, and other reasons. Based on a statistic shared by the United Nations in 2018, in that year alone, 17.2 million new displacements associated with disasters in 148 countries and territories were recorded. A lot of the media we see will focus on the political dimension of migration, the border control, refugee camps, international law. But one aspect that is often overlooked, that's an important part of the crisis, is the grassroots movements or the groups of volunteers that are responding to it on the ground, often filling gaps that international organizations or national organizations trying to address the crisis cannot address. Often these groups are led by volunteers who are giving their time, their expertise, and often underfunded to try to provide some of the critical support that displaced populations need when they are faced with a forced migration for various reasons. I'm going to mention two particular groups, one that focuses on environmental migration, also known as eco-migration, and another one that focuses on migration due to conflict. In Uganda, there's a group of young men who formed an organization called Abayuuti Climate Action Network. In this region, they've experienced a lot of extreme weather events such as droughts, floods, that are driving what is recently known as eco-migration, which essentially refers to people who are forcibly displaced due to the direct impacts of environmental change, which is a trend that has intensified in recent years. According to the World Bank, one of their statistics stated that the number of climate migrants will rise to 216 million by the year 2050. Briefly, some of the work that the Abayuuti Climate Action Network does is promoting sustainable agricultural practices and helping people integrate into their new community so that they reduce any potential tensions between the people already living there and the displaced people, providing economic opportunities through their livelihood projects and running a school for children to be able to continue their education in this new home. Just briefly touching on migration due to conflict, there are many grassroots organizations dealing with this particular issue at the ground level. I'm going to briefly mention Safebow, which is an initiative that I was first made aware of was operating in the Ukraine, evacuating community members of the LGBTQ community and other vulnerable peoples when Russia invaded Ukraine. In Palestine, they started doing work evacuating Gazans out of the region, and mostly working with local people to make sure that their initiatives were run by Palestinians for Palestinians rather than having foreigners coming in trying to solve the problem for them. That's one of their main key initiatives or visions that they have. So very briefly, these grassroots organizations often are heavily underfunded, rely, as I said, on volunteers, but are able to move and support people in a more flexible manner than international organizations can. And it's unfortunate that we need more of these kinds of supports because there's such an increase in forced migration and displacements. To wrap up this speech so it's not too long, the hope is that forced migration and displacement of people is something that will decrease rather than increase in coming years. And we just hope that the humanity of people is what helps us mitigate it and work through it and survive as we face that. I don't have a good way of ending the speech, so I'll just end the speech.